Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And today I'm welcoming to the show Alex Kain. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks, B, for having me.
No, thank you. Melbourneite, just like me. How was you said you had a great weekend, yeah?
It's beautiful weather in my virtual world, yes. So,
I
yeah,
know.
Melbourne's great sometimes, right?
It is a bit like that this morning, actually. It's freezing cold, but it is a beautiful day. So I'll also say a big shout out and hello to the listeners out there. Love having you listening to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Please do share and like and comment on the conversation I'm having with Alex today. So, Alex, let's get on into it. You've got your beautiful book in front of us called The Philosophy, and you're an author and you launched this book last June, and you said to me just then you'd done a TED talk in Melbourne just recently. So I'm really interested to talk a lot about the book and the philosophy. It's a great title either way.
Thank you.
And I'm no doubt we're going to have quite that type of a conversation. Let's get into it though, because like I said, you're a philosopher, author, and systems transformer, and you spent much of your career exploring a question that challenges conventional business thinking. And that is, what if the greatest constraint to growth isn't the system itself? Instead, it's how we see it. An important inflection point emerged when you redefined what success meant to you. Rather than viewing transformation as a technical challenge, you began exploring the human experience behind every business, recognizing that lasting change starts with people and not processes. Today, through Auto Digital, you help organizations, Auto Digital is a transformation business, and you help organizations rethink the relationship between technology, systems, leadership, creating solutions that strengthen human connection, reduce complexity, and enable businesses to grow with greater clarity and purpose. Love all of that. Your journey reflects a shift from fixing systems to helping people reshape the way they work, lead, and create value. And I just think it's so important in businesses right now. You can't separate the two. Everything is interconnected. I always talk about the business, the leader, and the team and the people. It's all interconnected. It is a living, breathing system, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And at the heart of your work sits a simple question, and that is, what becomes possible when we stop designing businesses around systems and start designing them around the people?
Mm.
Tell us a bit about your journey, because your response to my question was very simple in terms of when I asked you what is one, insight or lived experience that you'd like to share when it comes to life, leadership, and or business. You said redefined what success means. So maybe we can
Mm.
start there.
Sure. Yeah. Look, the opening line in my book is, what's the point? What's the point of life? So really business for me comes from that. Business doesn't sit out there on its own. It is part of who we are, what we are as humans, and how we connect and make meaningful transactions in life. So for me, it's the meaningful that's the emphasis here, rather than just the transaction. When we sell something to a business, we're not selling to a business, we're selling to a person who may not have had sleep the night before, who's got their own things going on. And I think bringing that humanity back into anything that we do in business is critical, because business should not be seen as something separate from who we are as people. It should be part of how we transact, how we get on in the world. And that transacting is just part of how we communicate, connect, and move forward. And so I think for me, it's that view of business, and then therefore success. And so business success for me is not about, he who dies with the most toys wins. It's really more about, it gets back to that opening line. What's the point? And so I try and find meaning in everything we do. And my business, Auto Digital, has been around and focuses on helping businesses to optimize their systems and processes, right? And often, I'll go into a business and look at things and find, why are you doing it that way? And often it's, well, that's the way we've always done it. That's a common answer. And so you have to get back into the mind and just go, well, why you do? Well, it's the path of least resistance, so we just kept it, you know. And everything that we do in business should really reflect what is our ultimate goal, not just for the business, but for the people in the business. You know, the business isn't its own little thing. I keep reiterating that because it's so important. The people in the business are. And so what are we trying to achieve for our end users, our customers, for our staff? You know, what is their experience in the business? They're not just cogs to get an output at the end. They are part of that organic, as you mentioned. It is an organic thing that is constantly evolving. And so we need to see people in the business as the important thing and not profit as the ultimate output.
Yeah, I love that.
What can we give to
Yeah.
people?
You talked about this thing around what's the point? Like, did you have your own what's the point that like led to you to honing in on this and making it almost your mission in life? Because you redefined what success means to you. And I think everyone has that what's the point moment, you know, personally and professionally, and then as a total business. Was there one? Was there one like moment in time where you were like, what is the point of all of this? And so then you went into like this kind of almost like pilgrimage, if you like, journey. Like if we look at your background, where did it come from?
Well, look, I didn't have a near death experience and then just reassess, you know, what life is. There wasn't a single point. I think it's just years of looking at the world and just going, are we really living up to our potential? You know, could we be doing better? And it was that constant view of things and going, hang on, it doesn't make sense. You know, the way we do certain things doesn't make sense. You know, I'll give you an example. Loyalty, right? We see loyalty as a value that is something that we should feel connected to, right? We appreciate loyalty. But then you look at a bank, and what does a bank do? A bank decides that I'm going to offer 0% interest to get new users, new customers in. But to my existing customers, we keep charging them the same rate that we've been charging them. For me, it's the antithesis of loyalty. Really, what we should be doing is the longer you've been with the bank, the better the rate that you get over time. That would be more congruent to see loyalty being part of what a business does. But we often put profits ahead of human values. And some of these things you just go, hang on, that doesn't make sense to me. Why are we doing it that way? And so I look at these systems and I just question them. And in fact, you know, question everything is a strong motto in the book because a lot of things that we just take for granted, we see them as huge, immovable systems that we can't change. We're just small little minnows in this big sea. And I say, no, we can't just accept things the way they are because they're too big to change. I say, no, we challenge them, we question them, and we find ways to move them.
I love that. I love that whole philosophy. Is that what your TED talk was about last week in terms of like, what did you say? You said question everything. What's the point? They're really big. I mean, what's the point? You could argue it can be quite like not a negative, but it's like, well, what's the point? I'm just giving up. But you're looking at it in a very different way in terms of question everything. What is the
Well, I'm asking us to come up with the answer to that. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not a nihilist and saying there's no point. I'm saying, what is the point? And we need to get back to that. And that's really what I'm asking people to do. And it's really about saying, you know, the things that we've become accustomed to, that this is the way the economy works, or this is the way politics works, or any of the major systems that govern society, we don't have to accept them because that's just the way they are. And same thing, I go into businesses, don't keep doing it because that's the way you've always done it. Sorry, that's not good enough.
No, it's so true, and there's so much of that happening at the moment, Alex. Don't you think? In terms of, especially, I don't know, like globally. I mean, we're both in Australia here, and there's a lot of there's a lot up for grabs at the moment. I feel like there's a lot up in the air, and we don't have to accept it. We don't we talk about freedom of speech. We talk about a lot of different things at the moment, and I think more than ever we're going to continue to see this rise of this questioning everything, because it's almost like we're getting to a point, and I'd love your thoughts on this from a business perspective. There's a lot of people that are being sick and tired of just doing it the way we've always done it. And yet there's
Well, you look
others.
at the political system, right? There's a lot of pushback from the major parties now. Why? Because we are sick and tired of the same old, same old. And so you're seeing that pushback now. And I think people are starting to say, I've had enough. We're not going to accept this. Now, where it goes from there is, still to be seen. But I think there is this groundswell of frustration that says we don't have to accept this. We want to do something. We need a pathway. And when an alternative is thrown in front of you, whatever that alternative is, you'll gravitate to that because it's just no longer the incumbent. And so you're looking for that new way of doing things.
Tell us a little bit about leadership as part of the philosophy. Like, do you talk about leadership within your book and the type of leaders that we need to be able to reshape, transform where we've currently been to where we're heading? Like, I mean, do we say we're still in this new world? I don't think so. I think we're in it. Like, it's not a new world anymore. This is the world we're in. Tell us a little bit about your point of view, and then also what you're seeing when you're going into these businesses.
Yeah, look, I think leadership, from many different angles, we want to find leaders who inspire, who lead, who genuinely lead, but also not through, sledgehammer approach, but they earn their position of being leaders. They inspire enough that we want to follow, we want to see what they have to say. And I think seeing the state of the world right now, that's not always what we're seeing reflected to us. Um, and I believe that true leadership comes from collaboration. It's not making decisions in isolation and saying, I've decided this, you do that now. It is about taking everyone with you. When I go into an organization and we look at making changes to their systems and processes, I often say, in our initial discovery, bring your staff into that meeting. This isn't just a management decision, because what you'll find is that change management becomes so much easier when everyone's
Yeah, the
invested in that
people.
outcome. Right. So, and that's what leadership is, seeing that, having the foresight to go, yes, you're right. I'm going to bring everyone in on this so that this is a journey that we do together. And I guarantee you that that leader is viewed in a different light than one who just hands something on a platter and says, here, I've got this, now use it. And
Seems
so that's, yeah,
It seems so simple, doesn't it, Alex? And yet there's so many businesses that are still doing it in such the wrong way, in terms of I think about collaboration all the time. I'm that sort of a person. I love collaborating. I love, my energy gets more and more higher as I'm collaborating. And yet there's this fear as well. If I involve other people, or maybe I'm not going to be the leader that everyone that I'm expected to be. And yet the more you can open up and the more you can have your team on board who are also helping you find the ways forward, it's a win-win for everyone.
absolutely. And then you feel like your leader is a human and not some, super super person. And I think that's what we want to see. We want to see, yes, our leaders are human, they're flawed, but they also have our best interests in mind. That's why we want to follow them, because we see that the intent behind the decisions is actually for everyone, for us all. And I think that's what leadership should be. It shouldn't be an autocracy. It needs to be a democracy to some degree. Obviously, a leader still needs to lead and needs to create that. But I think when you take people with you, the outcomes are so much greater. I mean, you look at a big business and all the people working in the business, they're not there to feed the top only. They're there for their own reasons. They've got their goals, hopes, and dreams. And I think a leader needs to find ways to allow their people to be able to funnel those thoughts to management so that the alignment between what the business does and what the people in the business do is definitely there. Otherwise, if you're misaligned, you're going to have people who are just doing a job. They're trying to get to their goals, but it's separate from the business goals. And
Agree.
and that's where things don't work. And that's when you have, HR issues. So trying to find ways to help people achieve their personal goals through the business as a vehicle. And it's a win-win then for
Yeah, it's
everyone.
just as important, isn't it? Let's talk about profit for a second, Alex, because I loved your notion around, like, for so long, businesses have been around profit first and everything else secondary. And there's still a lot of businesses out there, and there'll probably be people listening to this podcast probably going, no, like it remains profit first. I've read so many books on this in terms of, like, there's this graph that shows that, the more you focus on just profit, the people and the happiness of the people plateaus out. It's a great graph from years and years ago. I should pull it up actually. I'll try and see if I can share it in the notes. And I guess where I'm going with this is that, no doubt, digital transformation, you go into businesses, profit no doubt comes up as we're not growing, we're not scaling, systems, all of that. Like, what's your response? Like, because to say that, profit should not be the front driver and there should be like this, it's almost like going from this to like this, and making it more equal, if you like. The more your people are engaged, of course, the abundance and the profit follows. Like, what do you have in your book about this? And did you talk about it in the TED Talk as well last week?
Yeah. Look, profit is a byproduct of a business that's doing something well. It should be. That's what it should be, right? But the doing something well doesn't have to be profit as the focus. So it can be a byproduct of doing what you do well. So if if you've got a good product market fit, you're meeting a need and people see that need, then profit is a byproduct of that. And I don't have a problem with that at all. It's when profit is the goal, is almost becomes the product. That's where I have a problem. So, we measure health of anything by, the KPIs are to achieve certain milestones. What are the milestones for a successful business? Profit is often seen as, part of that KPI. But profit should be a byproduct of the other things that we're doing. Are we helping people? Are we meeting a need? Are we helping our staff achieve their hopes and dreams? And if you can do all those things and you can get profit out of it, that for me is a good business. It's when profit comes at the expense of those other, like in the example I've given about the banks chasing new customers. It's those kinds of examples where I feel where there's not that alignment, then I don't see profit playing a role in furthering the human side of the business. Yes, a business can make a lot of profit. Yes, it can have a lot of money in the bank, but you can have a lot of disgruntled staff,
Yeah.
a lot of unhappy management, and who's it serve really? So profit should be part of the big picture. It shouldn't be the picture.
And I think that's when profit is the only picture, and it still exists, that's when the system gets completely burnt. Like, the business system burns out, like the business, like, legitimately as a system, living, breathing system burns out, as do the people. And that's when the red lights are kind of ringing, because it's like, what's going on in here? Because everyone is just working their asses off.
Yeah. It's like someone who goes into law. Why'd you go into law? Oh, because you can make good money. It's like, it won't take long for someone who didn't really have a strong affinity for that to find that it's not congruent with who they are. So, we really need to follow what is true and right. And then the byproduct of that should be a good life, profitability, that sort of thing. And that's my belief. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but I think that's where we need to head. But it only works when the whole world sees it that way. It's no good if we say we're going to implement legislation that forces us to do that, but we trade on the global market, but not everyone else sees it that way as well. So, this is something we need to tackle globally. Yeah.
Agree. Tell us a bit about your book, The Philosophy. So you launched it last June. Has it been a book that you've been longing to write for many years? Like,
Absolutely not. Writing a book was the furthest thing from my mind. The honest answer is I don't even read a lot of books. I'm not a big reader. In fact, when I was at school, I would pay my sister 50 cents to read my books for me.
how funny.
So, yeah, the original outsourcer. But I had all these ideas brewing. This was my view of the world, and I needed to document it. And so I went through the process of writing a book, which was completely foreign to me. But what it did was allow me to have these great conversations. It opened the door to be able to do these sorts of discussions about it, and it raises people's consciousness where we can have these talks and say, it's not acceptable just to keep going how we're going, and I have chapters. There's a whole chapter about business. There's a chapter about politics, economics, education, health, all the major systems that we just operate under, and we accept that this is just how it is. My TED talk last week was, I believe the significant change we can make is to overhaul the education system so that the humans coming out of that system different than the humans today coming out of that system. So rather than school being an institution for learning subject matter, it becomes an incubator to nurture great human beings. And so it means having a more well-rounded focus, teaching life skills, teaching values, creating great humans that come out and then see the world differently. So our, next wave of politicians and business leaders are more empathetic and see how we can reimagine the world.
Oh, I love it. That's incredible because it's true, right? Like we've had this education system for how many years?
It's a throwback from the Industrial Revolution,
Well,
right? Where
exactly.
we just had to push through as many as we could.
Yeah, and now you've got this like almost it's fundamentally I see it as a bit of a broken system, in terms of it's not aligning with like you're talking about where leadership's heading, where businesses are heading. And we need to completely reimagine and reshape it so that we do have the best versions of ourselves coming out of it. And we have all the, like you say, the values, like the purpose. What's our purpose? Because quite often, I don't know, like I'm 48 and it took me, up until having a bit of a full breakdown in terms of burnout that I was like, who am I? What am I? What's my purpose? Imagine if we could create purposes, that's not even a word, purpose for each of us or start to find our purpose at a younger age. And of course it can evolve and grow versus having this like life of what success is meant to look like and then going, oh, actually,
Yeah.
I'm not
And this is the problem because, we say kids should learn their values and life skills in the home, right? Great. But the world's changed. Often both parents are out working, kids are left at home to their own devices, and often forming their view of the world from less than optimal sources, social media, gangs, and more recently, even AI, right? So it's like, how do we instill those values so that people don't slip through the cracks? I
Yeah.
mean, if you're lucky, you'll get it at home, but not everyone does. And then you meander through life trying to figure things out. And I think that we're just leaving things to chance. And I'm saying we actually need to design society. We need to have school as that single touch point that's available to everyone globally to instill these values of what it means to be a human in society today. You look at Harry Potter, right? The kids go to Hogwarts to learn to become wizards, how to cast spells. What do we teach our kids about becoming great human beings? The current Australian curriculum is focused on you learn these from inferred concepts from from a classroom novel or from a visit to a museum. You're not actually taught these values. These are inferred or implied from a novel. And I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's strong enough or good enough. I think we actually need to teach empathy and respect. You look at other countries, Denmark, they've been teaching since 1993. It's actually a mandatory class weekly on empathy for all kids 6 to 16 years of age.
Yeah, I love it.
And
It's so true. We need more of it. It's been seen as more of a like a soft, like it's not a,
soft skill, that's it, yeah.
yeah, I can't
But,
stand it.
this is who we are. We're human and,
Yeah. I know.
figure it out for yourself.
Questions for you. Optimize. You talked around optimize, and then you used the word transact as well. And they're two words for me. Transact being very transactional, non-relational, I don't know, everything you've been talking about here. And then optimize is starting to come up as well as are you just optimizing? Like if we go right back to what's the point? Are you just optimizing for the sake of optimizing? Like, what's your view on that? Because it's optimize or it's and optimized. Do you know what I mean? There's something else and optimize, not just we're just optimizing the crap out of everything. Because
Well, I'll often get called into a business because there's a problem, there's a challenge, right? Now, whether it's a communications problem or, sales are slipping through the cracks because there's gaps in the process or whatever it is. So they bring me in to try and solve a problem. But when I look at that in the way we operate, again, for me, it comes back to society. We look at our societal systems and processes. We're often coming up with the best solution to the wrong problem because we're often treating symptoms and never the underlying cause. We follow the shiny thing, whatever's in the media or whatever it is that's captured our attention, but it's often not the underlying cause of the problem. And so my goal first is to actually highlight to any business, actually, this is not the issue here. This is the issue here. And when you see that, you can develop a solution to treat the underlying cause rather than you fix one thing here, but you haven't plugged all these other gaps because you chased the wrong thing. And so it's giving that clarity that helps a business. And I hope society to actually see what we really need to chase after.
yeah, it's a good response. You seem like a person that has like a very we need to change, we need to make a difference. What do you do on the days when you have, pushback? Like, do you just keep pushing through? Like, do you ever have moments where it's just like, this is too hard, this is so hard? Like, what keeps you going? Because you have these big, great mission. It's a
Big,
great,
hairy, audacious goals, right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And I get the feeling though, you're also someone that is very true to your values, your beliefs, and
Dog with a bone.
well, that's what it feels like. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of what it was.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, you're going to get people who disagree. You're going to get people who go, no, I'm really happy with the status quo. Thank you, because I'm benefiting from it really well. Thanks. I don't want to change anything. There's a lot of that. But I'm sorry, that's not a good enough answer for me. I really want to see more equity. I want to see more empathy. I want to see that everyone has a shot of having a decent life. Because you get back to that opening question, what's the point? The point isn't to just get to the top. If you have a look, here's my book. I don't know if you can see it,
It's
but
better, it's better on the background.
it's there, but it's like Maslow's hierarchy, right? And often Maslow's hierarchy is our race to get to the top to self-actualize as quickly as possible for ourselves. My cover has people helping pull everyone up from the lower levels
I was
to
wondering
help
what it
each other.
was. I couldn't see. I was going to ask you that. You've just given me the response. That's great.
Yeah. So, and that's what I see. We need to help everyone, because a successful society is not me getting to the top on my own. It's when we all rise together. And I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but when we're all doing well, then we're all doing well.
Yeah, I love that. So good. So one final question for you. What is Australia? Let's just keep it to Australia for now. What's Australia going to look like in 12 months' time?
Oh, geez.
Or should we say, what does Melbourne look like in like 12 months' time?
Well, look, I mean, there's a number of things happening. We've got an election later this year. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Look, I don't think within 12 months a hell of a lot's going to change. That's just the reality, is that, things don't move fast, and there is a lot of resistance. There's a lot of inertia. For me, I'll keep pushing. I will keep pushing. And, there are a lot of people who feel the same way. They just feel on their own, they can't make a difference. And that's why this is more of a movement than just a book. This is about getting people together. People say to me, why don't you go into politics? I go, I don't want to be in politics, because that system is a broken system to begin
Agree.
with, right? I'm far better off becoming a lobby group to politics and making change happen that way than being in it.
Yeah. I'll join your lobby group. Love to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Come on in, the water's fine.
Alex, thank you so much. And if you could give the listeners one piece of advice on, I guess, empathy or equity, and tapping into that, or how they could bring more of that into their organization if they feel like it's lacking, what would your advice be or tip?
If you're a leader, I would say talk to your people. Listen. Don't just talk, listen, take the feedback on board, not as a tick box exercise, but as an actual active listening experience. And hear what they have to say, because you will get gold nuggets from that. And if you have your people feeling heard, they will work that much harder, because they will feel that they are aligned. And that's what I get back to. If you feel that alignment, you will do anything to,
Oh,
to get to the end
100%.
goal.
Great
Yeah.
conversation, Alex. Thank you. I really enjoyed my Monday morning with you. It's been
Awesome.
great. We've got the QR code here, so we can scan the code. How do we find out more about, where else can we purchase your book from, and how do we find out more about you and Otto Digital?
Awesome. Look, you can find me, Alex Kain, on LinkedIn. You'll see me there. But if you want to find out more about the book, the movement, and everything else, you can go to thephilosophy.net.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks so much, Alex. Really enjoyed this conversation this morning, and yeah, let's go get them.
Woo! Thanks, Peggy.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
See ya.
you.